Literally, if you don't do something, that person will be dead within minutes.
Right.
When we go out into this untamed environment, this backcountry, people often think that these things won't happen to them. Controlling bleeding and understanding how to do that and just having some simple tools can really go a long way in potentially saving somebody's life. I'm John Barklow. I'm the Senior Product Manager of Hunting at Sitka Gear.
My name's Christain Schauf. I'm the founder of Uncharted Supply Company.
Outside of sprains and strains and some minor inflammation and pain, really when you get to bleeding, that is the thing we have to be the most concerned about. And there's lots of things to consider and a lot of different tools we can use to manage that bleeding. I think a lot of it comes down to, what's your training or my training, right? Because I think that has something to do with it. What is our knowledge? And then that knowledge maybe relates to what tools we carry and our capability. The first thing that comes to me outside of like a minor, say, cut, right? Or, laceration or puncture is something that begins to bleed either in the backcountry or on the side of the road, right? Where you need to manage and stabilize this wound. That direct pressure could be with gauze. Can this person clot with direct pressure and stop that bleeding? And maybe that's all you need to do. Maybe there's some other things, if that doesn't work, that we need to consider.
I think the tourniquet has entered the public psyche at a level where people think they need them. But to your point, if you haven't trained with them, it can actually be pretty dangerous. I mean, my perspective, it's a last resort. And you might be able to tell immediately if you need a tourniquet. If there's blood just gushing out, if there's a huge pile of blood, you can see the heartbeat of blood coming out, and you think that person's going to bleed out in a few minutes, that's where you want to go. But there's so many steps in between that I wish people would pay more attention to. Like you said, direct pressure all the way up to quick clot. There's some other tools here that we can use. And I think you've kind of got to have a couple things with you because most people aren't trained. And in most situations, you can probably solve it with something else before you get to a tourniquet and end up having to lose a limb or something else.
Literally, if you don't do something, that person will be dead within minutes.
Right.
So at that point, it's like, well, I almost don't have an option. But that's assuming you have either the tool and the experience to go with it. There's other things now that people don't necessarily need that training that may help them. And so one of them is quick clot. I could put it on, you could maybe modify it, and then I could go and help somebody else potentially. Or if you're by yourself, it's easy enough for you to put it on and doesn't have the negative effects of, an improperly applied tourniquet.
Yeah, and that's just the Schlissman wrap. We saw this at Uncharted. We didn't design it.
Super lightweight, right? Super low profile.
Here's a Cat 5 tourniquet. Compared to this, it's lighter, it's smaller, and essentially it does more. But this guy is designed to do several things, and it's just a band with a bunch of Velcro attachments to it. First and foremost, like you said, maybe you've got some quick clot you've packed in there, and now you can wrap this around and have a space that's several inches wide covering the whole gash with a ton of pressure, which helps that quick clot do its job better. It also, you maybe have a broken bone. You can take this thing, you could put something stiff, a stick or something next to your leg. You could use this to wrap, to hold it on. There's just so many uses with this. And then as a tourniquet, it's just got a loop on the end. You put your arm through there, you pull it tight, and you just start wrapping.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about this is okay, maybe you didn't need the tourniquet. You can adjust the pressure. Maybe you need to crank it down more. But this thing is really tough, really durable. We've loved this design, and I think it gives people a lot more options and a really good between a Band-Aid that's not working and then clamping it off with a tourniquet.
What we're showing is there's a lot of different tools now that provide a broad range of capability, but understanding that managing bleeding, obviously it's ABCs, right? Airway, breathing, circulation. We have to be able to manage that breathing. People often think that these things won't happen to them or that they don't happen, right? And people are maybe just being a little paranoid. But, I've had a buddy who was going through heavy brush. His arrow came out of the quiver, and however it happened, the arrow ended up stabbing him in the back of the calf. And it was a really bad puncture wound, right? That was difficult to control that bleeding, and he ultimately needed to be carried out of the field. The issues I've had are when it's the end of the day, I've just got an animal on the ground, maybe I'm by myself, maybe it's inclement weather, maybe I'm trying to rush through, right? And these knives are so sharp now and efficient, and I'm quartering an animal and it slips, and the next thing you know, I've stabbed myself in the hand.
Yep.
Another friend of mine, just in the last few years, with one of these scalpel knives. Again, quartering up an animal, slips, stab that knife right into his thigh. Thank God he didn't cut his femoral artery, right? But these things happen, and they happen a lot more than any of us want to care to admit or even discuss, right? And I mean, you had an incident, what was it, last year or the year before, that was like really crazy.
This happened when I was ski touring with my dog, which we do every single day. The more frequently you do this and something hasn't happened, the closer you are to your number getting called.
Yeah.
And it happened. We do it every day and nothing happens, and then one day he almost died. And so my buddy skied into him. It's just a mistake. They didn't see each other, they collided. And he comes running up to me, and he is spraying blood out of his forearm. Just with every step, just spraying the side of the mountain. And I had our little triage kit with. I had zip ties, I had duct tape, I had gauze, and I found a stick. And I made the best tourniquet I could, taped it down, put him on my shoulders, and I skied him to where the snowmobile was going to be. Now, it wasn't perfect. He was still bleeding, but it slowed it down. And we were way out there.
Yeah.
But we all did enough to get it done. And it wasn't one tool. It was like a lot of little things.
It wasn't perfect, right? But you had knowledge, and you knew you needed to do something. And let's be honest, to call somebody and wait for help, your dog wouldn't be here today.
No.
But you knew enough to at least slow the bleeding.
Yep.
And say, hey, this is what I can do right now, and now we need to get out of here to hire medical care. And so controlling bleeding and understanding how to do that, and just having some simple tools, but more importantly in my mind, the knowledge you have in your brain, right, to go, I have to do something, it's got to be immediate, here's some tools that'll help me.
Yep.
It's critical, right? Because these things do happen very often.
And I always think about improving this situation step by step. You're not going to immediately fix everything. But if you can start improving the situation, that does a lot for your psychology, because you start calming down, your adrenaline goes down, you start thinking more clearly, and then you might find other solutions.
Right.
So for me, it's always like, what's step one? Okay, let's do this. Let's step two, let's do that. And when we build all of our products at Uncharted, we try to give people step-by-step instructions, because we've found, and research shows, when you start going down the right path, things get clearer, things get easier, you start going in the right direction.
Yeah. Having these things and an understanding and thinking through them, and then just making sure you have some basic tools.
Yep.
And some basic knowledge, like either with that wrap or some quick clot gauze, or even just some basic gauze bandages, and thinking through that and having that capability can really go a long way in potentially saving somebody's life.
Yeah, so thanks for watching. I've learned a lot today from you. I always do, and I think that's the important thing, is always be learning, always be getting better. So whether you pick up these products or something else, just think about where you're going, who you're with, what your capabilities are, what might happen, and don't be a statistic, right? You want to make sure that you're going to be the hero and save the day if something happens.
Yeah, everybody's looking for what's the perfect thing, and the reality is when we go out into this untamed environment, this backcountry, it's not that. And so the best thing you can do is have some tools, have some knowledge, and understand that things may happen, things probably will happen at a certain point, and the better prepared you are, the better you can manage that.
Yep.
And so there's more tools than ever, there's more information than ever, and really there's no excuse not to be prepared and be self-sufficient.
Absolutely. So have fun out there. You don't have to be paranoid, just be prepared. Thanks for watching.